Welcome to another edition of Talk City Greensboro, produced by GTN, featuring interviews and events happening around town. It's an easy way to stay in the know while you're on the go. Subscribe to Talk City on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play, or SoundCloud, so you can keep up with what's going on in Greensboro City government. I'm your host, Josh Johnson, and joining me today in the studio, as always, manning the controls, Mr. Devin Smith.
How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing fairly well.
It's a new year.
A new year, yeah. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well.
Thank you, sir.
Well, a couple weeks into every year, we have the privilege of honoring a pioneer by celebrating his birthday. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was and is still the centerpiece of equality, diversity, and inclusion in the United States. In Greensboro, the Human Relations Department and the Human Relations Committee host an annual Martin Luther King Jr. Day breakfast as a tribute. To tell us all about the upcoming event is Human Relations Director Dr. Love Jones. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you all doing?
We're doing
well.
fine. Thank you for being here.
Fantastic.
So, what can people expect from this year's event? Who's the keynote speaker? Some of those details that are going to kind of spark interest this year.
Well, I have to say, every year I'm excited. And this year is absolutely no different. We have a wonderful lineup of people coming to help us celebrate the legacy of Dr. King. Our keynote speaker this year is actually Lynch Hunt, who is the owner of AWOL Fitness, which
we know him.
Yes, yes, it's very popular establishment, and he's also a motivational speaker and an author, and so he'll be with us this year. We also have some faithfuls that are always really, they get positive response every year. Josephus Thompson and the Poetry Project, he always brings members of the Gate City Slam team to do a performance that falls in line with the theme and the legacy of Dr. King. And then this year we're also having Grimsley's Choir.
Cool.
It'll be nice to have this kind of spread across generations, contributing to the program. Always seems to go over well when there's some diversity in the offerings to include the diversity in age participation.
Yes, definitely. And I know like last year there was a panel and things like that. So it's really always something different to spark your interest in. With Lynch Hunt being there, he has an amazing story.
Yes. Lynch is very candid about the fact that you can come back from any place in life. He very openly, very candidly shares his background navigating the justice system to being one of the most thriving entrepreneurs in Greensboro. And just, starting from that space and moving across time to an opportunity of a second chance if you need it, and then grabbing that chance by the horns is also a lot of what Dr. King knew would be needed in our community. I'm confident that at that time, when you looked at who was incarcerated, who was being jailed, sometimes with reason, sometimes without, minorities were a significant part of that population even then. And so I'm confident that aside from the acceptance, the diversity, the equity, and the inclusion of the community from that place of quote unquote, perfect citizen who just deserves an opportunity at the table, he was reaching beyond that. And he was taking a look at what it meant to have the same bumps and bruises as our white counterparts in the community, and some of the same blemishes and spots, but still being able to come back and be a thriving, contributing member of a community. So I think that this definitely falls in line with King's mission. I think that it's timely that a person who has this kind of story is able to be at the forefront to open people's eyes and minds to what it means to truly be inclusive, to truly be welcoming, to truly appreciate the diversity, not just of ethnicity, but of human experience.
So where's the breakfast going to be held? If it's not sold out, how can somebody get a ticket?
Well, good news and bad news. The good news is that I do know where the breakfast will be, which is part of my job as the Director of Human Relations. It's going to be at the Curry Convention Center, as always, right off of Gate City Boulevard over in the Four Seasons Complex. However, we are sold out. Each year, as we approach the breakfast, I guess the fault line for tickets being sold out seems to inch back, which is a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not a good thing if you don't have a ticket, right?
Yeah.
But it's definitely a good thing as far as our community's commitment to celebrating the legacy of Dr. King, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they're going to have to find a new venue really soon. Or a bigger room.
Yeah.
We are in the Talk City studio with Dr. Jones, the Director of Human Relations for the City of Greensboro. She's given us all the details for this year's tribute breakfast for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Thank you for being here once again.
Oh, absolutely. I'm happy to be here. Happy to be here.
All right, so this is an annual event, and we're talking about kind of how this one varies from years past and how this event really grows each and every year. So what do you think kind of keeps people coming back and committed to showing up to this event?
Well, I definitely think that that it's kind of a twofer, this answer. Part of what is different about the event each year and what keeps people coming back is the fact that we in the Human Relations Department embrace a model of organic program development. We rely on the community to build programs large and small. So we have a committee for the second or third year in a row that collectively plans this breakfast. The staff does not plan the breakfast. And the beauty of that is we get all kinds of innovative ideas. We get wonderful suggestions about speakers, performers, format. You mentioned that last year we had a panel. This year we will not, but last year's panel was the idea of the committee. This year the committee voted to go a different direction and to return to a keynote speaker. There may be another design in the future, but ultimately, what makes it different is the fact that you have different people at the table every year who set aside their time for about maybe 6-7 months out of the year. And they sit at the table and they meet and they talk through what the program should capture, what the audience probably desires of the program, and how to execute that in some level of excellence. And they work really hard with us as staff. So I think that when you have a situation where something is homegrown, it just has a different feel.
Yeah.
You know, and so members of the community who know members of the committee are kind of getting the scoop as far as how exciting it's going to be and what it's going to offer. I also think that one of the things that keeps people coming back year after year is the different flavor of the speaker. And if you look at just in my tenure, I've been here almost 7 years. This is my 7th breakfast. If you look at the variety of speakers across the years, it appeals to different populations each time. Yeah. But nonetheless, if you are simply an avid supporter of the MLK breakfast, then part of the draw is, well, who will it be this year? Yeah. Who's going to bring the message this year? You know, and then of course you have people who come to see young talent in its developmental stages. We've got a choir from a high school. We've also got wonderful poets who are on deck. And I think that all of those elements, when you pull it all together, makes it an exciting and worthwhile opportunity so early in the morning.
Yeah.
So this breakfast is not really a small piece, but it is no small piece of the overall work that you guys do in that department. So talk a little bit about the mission of the Human Relationships Department,
sure,
if you can.
Sure. The Human Relations Department has a fourfold focus. First and foremost is, meeting the needs of the community when it comes to fair housing. We are a FAP agency, or a Fair Housing Assistance Program, authorized by HUD to investigate cases. We take that responsibility very seriously. We also do landlord-tenant dispute, because sometimes it's not a matter of discrimination according to federal law, but it is a matter of needing to restore some sort of amicable relationship where the occupant and the owner of the dwelling can function peacefully, right? Then we also have a focus in commission support. We have 2 commissions and a subcommittee out of our department: the Human Relations Commission, the Commission for the Status of Women, and then the International Advisory Committee. All 3 of those volunteer groups consist of community members who have either been appointed by council or elected by the community at large in the case of the IAC, who do work across a 2-year or 3-year period, basically bringing the needs of the community to the department and to council. So we support them consistently. And then we do work with international populations in general. We have a wonderful, diverse community of immigrants and refugees in our city. We do a lot of work to make sure that there is equity, fairness, and access to resources for the international population. And then we do a lot of work with justice served populations, which is actually why we were very excited that Lynch was chosen for the MLK keynote this year, because we really do believe that in order to thrive in this community, you need to be able to have access to education, voting, employment, housing, regardless of your justice served background. And so Thrive GSO, which is our initiative out of the Human Relations Department, is another big part of what we do. We have all kinds of stuff sprinkled in between, of course, but that really is the best way to capture the essence of what this city's mission is when it comes to human rights.
Yeah.
And I know your department works really hard because, you're pulling from different organizations and different in a lot of times when I speak to you and some of the people in your department, you really take pride in the fact that it's like you're like, well, we're not doing all the work. We're kind of a hub. We're organizing and connecting people and connecting the dots so they understand that the city as a whole really has your back. And it's not, it's the city as an organization, but then it's the community members and the community organizations that will be there to help you out, like Thrive GSO. I've been to one of those, I guess it would be kind of like a
program, clinic.
Yeah. So, and it was jam-packed with people coming. There were like 20, 30 businesses there, and people just coming to figure out, hey, how can I be helped? It was in partnership with Guilford Works and stuff like that. So it's crazy the amount of work that gets done out of this department.
Well, that's the whole essence of what we do. The thing to remember about human rights is that one of the most critical pieces of human rights is information access. Usually when people's rights are denied, it's because they don't know that their rights exist and or they don't know how to restore them. And so whatever we have to do to galvanize community members who contribute to that mission of people being whole, we try to pull them to the center. There are a lot of great organizations that people don't know provide services that are not necessarily provided by the city, but nonetheless, that it is a wonderful portal to restoring rights or getting access to information, getting the resources that you need. So whether it's housing or justice served populations or the needs of international populations, it runs the gamut. We reach out into the community to see who's already providing a service. The goal of human relations is not necessarily to duplicate work, but it's more so to raise the profile of work that's already happening so that people know that they've got touch points in the city. The other part that we understand about human rights is that this big old city building sometimes can be intimidating. So the other reason why we rely on community partners is so that people can find the place and space that is going to be safest for them to get their needs met. That's what's really important. So we definitely rely on a team. After all, on a good day, we're only a staff of 7. And so we have to rely on the network. We are one of the smallest departments doing outward-facing work. A lot of the other smaller departments in the organization do the inward work, like budget and things like that. So we have to rely on the community as a whole to support whatever initiatives and opportunities that we want people to know are available.
Yeah. Much like the MLK breakfast, your department is inspiring. So thank you for coming down to tell us all about the MLK breakfast as well as what the Human Relations Department does as a whole.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, stay tuned in weekly by subscribing to Talk City Greensboro on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. And don't forget, you can download the podcast from Soundcloud.
That's it for this week. Thanks for tuning in to Talk City. Be sure to watch GTN, your official source for news and information about the city of Greensboro. GTN is available on Spectrum Channel 13,
AT&T U-verse Channel 99,
and North State Channel 31.
GTN also streams live on the city's website at greensboro-nc.gov. Have a good one.